Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to MFSN The Hub's weekly live fantasy sports Q&A. I am here with Ross the Boss. My name is Kasey Scheinvold. Ross, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk fantasy sports, especially football, with you. See, I have the football right here.
I see that. That looks nice, but you didn't do the cowboy thing.
I'm waiting. I do like a little like
the dramatic pause. Yeah, you need like a Dak Prescott jersey, so you're actually dressed as a cowboy.
With you, cowboy. See, I waited a little bit.
Nice. I like it. I like it. Well, here at MFSN, it's a couple weeks before the start of the regular season. We like to give everybody the latest news and information and give them a chance to ask us some questions about what they can expect and how they can win in their fantasy leagues. So I think it's important that we start off by giving you the biggest news of the week. And there was a pretty big injury last night. Ross, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, the rookie running back, University of Clemson, Travis Etienne, strain. It's the same injury Joe Mixon had last year. And I'm a Bengal fan. I remember the injury very well because it ruined my season, actually, with him and Burrow going down in the same season. It's a horrible injury. He's having surgery today or tomorrow. One of those, doesn't matter. He's out for the season. They put him on the IR. He's done for the season. If you're in a dynasty league, he's still a great pick to hold on to. If you're in a keeper league, I probably wouldn't keep him. Even if you're in a non-keeper league, you don't draft him. So I feel bad for your Jacksonville fans. I had high expectations for him. I feel now Robinson moves up at least 10 ticks now.
At least
10 ticks. I knew those guys were going to share the ball a little bit, but now I think Robinson's going to get the ball a majority of the time, and the Jacksonville line isn't that bad. They're going to protect Mr. Lawrence, who's their number one pick, who should have a great year.
Yeah, I mean, the Lisfranc is the part of the foot. It's the midfoot that he hurt. And from what I've read about it, I'm certainly no foot expert. It sounds like it's a pretty gnarly injury. And if you're a running back, your feet are pretty important. So I have a feeling it can knock you down a bit. And that's why he's out for the season. And James Robinson came in last year as an undrafted rookie and proved that he was a pretty dominant or capable running back on another bad Jacksonville team. So there's no reason. He was already going to get the early down work. There was a lot of people saying he was going to play first and second down, at least in the first half of the season, maybe lose some third down work to Etienne. So in my opinion, it moves him up probably into the third round, at worst the fourth round, which is a pretty big jump for a guy who was seen as a running back by committee as of 2 days ago. So
I have him top 20 now.
I would put him probably in that 16 range.
It's actually in my ratings. In my ratings right now, he's number 19. I do think he'll get the ball a lot. He'll score some touchdowns, and he does catch the ball a lot too. So I feel it's a good pickup. Please, when you draft, remember not to draft him.
Yeah, I put Etienne, not Robinson. I put Robinson now in that same ballpark as CEH or Chris Carson, maybe a little bit behind Darrell Henderson, but he certainly falls into that too, because Darrell Henderson, as we all know, got the job the same way with Cam Akers early in training camp going down for the season. So now is the time where you have to be really, really paying attention to that injury list so that you can be aware of where to make pickups or where to change your draft rankings. Etienne was somewhere in that 20 to 25 range, probably in running backs, and Robinson was somewhere in the 25 to 30 range just because of the value of a first round pick for Etienne. But I think, Etienne is obviously off the radar in redraft leagues, and James Robinson, I think I agree with you, moves into that 16 to 18 range for running back. So that's a pretty good pickup. Now, of course, we have the biting of the COVID list. We heard today that Cole Beasley, the one who's famously saying, I'm not getting vaccinated, and Mark Cuban had that back and forth with him. He's suddenly quarantined because of a close contact with COVID. And I wonder if he's rethinking his position, but I don't think it is right now. So, but a big one is CeeDee Lamb. Ross, I know you own him in one of our leagues together, and we have Hard Knocks coming on tonight, and Hard Knocks, as we know, is all about the Dallas Cowboys. I wonder if that's going to be a part of it.
Well, CeeDee Lamb, I know he doesn't have COVID. He had a contact. He'll be out for a couple days. It's not a big deal. It's probably better he rests a few days and stays at home before the 17-game season, if you know what I mean. Cole Beasley, on the other hand, Cole is somebody that's boisterous. He's not getting the vaccination. He's very adamant against it. I think the Bills are making an example of him. He tested negative, but they still want him to stay away from the team for 5 days. I wonder if he got vaccinated, they would treat him the same. I wonder if they would, because this guy who had this guy who had COVID was a trainer, and he just wasn't around Cole. He was around a lot of players. So yeah. I'm just wondering, I
don't know how many other people have been told to stay away. Also, Cole Beasley is the one who makes.
I wonder if they're making an example of Cole.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily because he's unvaccinated. I think it's more because he came out and said people shouldn't make us get vaccinated. It's kind of the same thing that happened with DeAndre Hopkins. I think if something were to happen in Arizona and in their camp, they'd probably make an example out of DeAndre Hopkins as well.
It's funny with DeAndre. I actually was worried about that. I put him down on my draft list, and now some drafts coming up, I kind of moved him up a little bit because he's been tearing it up in preseason. He's going to have a huge year. He'll have over 1,500 yards. He's going to be top 3 receiver. And I don't think, I don't feel it's going to matter at all, him not getting vaccinated or even getting vaccinated. I don't think it's going to matter to him. He's going to have a huge year.
Yeah. I mean, there's injuries around the league that are also pretty relevant. I read recently that the Detroit Lions aren't sure that DeAndre Swift is going to be able to practice at all in the preseason or make it back for week 1. He was the projected starter there at running back. And now the question is, if and when he does come back, what kind of shape will he be in? How quickly will he be able to acclimate? And that gives somebody like Jamal Williams, who we've all seen as a really capable backup in Green Bay, it gives him the starting nod in Detroit for at least week 1 and maybe even further. And it could increase his value, at least as a pickup. I don't think it moves his draft value that tremendously, but he becomes a much more enticing running back 3 or running back 4 on your roster.
Yeah, I have Jamal as my sleepers. I've had Jamal. I drafted him in a couple leagues. I feel he's going to take that job away from Swift. Jamal catches the ball. He runs faster. He's stronger. I just feel Swift fumbles more. He does not hold on to the ball that well. And I think Jamal Williams is going to win that job regardless of him going down or not. I love Jamal Williams coming out of Detroit, even though it's a bad offense. I feel that offense is one of the worst offenses in the league. But somebody has to carry the ball, somebody has to score. I don't love the Detroit Lions. I feel their offensive line is not good. They have a whole new receiving core. I think the receivers will be okay. They have the rookie from USC, Brown. I feel he'll be good. But again, I don't want to draft a Detroit Lion.
Yeah, well, I would draft Jamal Williams. I'd probably draft TJ Hawkinson too, who's a really good young tight end. But you're right. When your number 1 is Brashard Perryman, and that's who I think they have at the top of the depth chart.
I like Tyrell Williams as number 1. I mean, it's up for grabs.
Yeah,
there's not a for sure number 1.
There's not a lot of stability there or safety.
I'm not drafting. If I draft a receiver from Detroit, it's going to be in the second to last round or last round. It doesn't matter.
I was reading another interesting thing. AJ Brown and Julio Jones, the two, kind of the studs wide receiver that were supposed to, I guess, take Ryan Tannehill even to another level. AJ Brown's coming off 2 knee surgeries and hasn't practiced yet. And Julio Jones is only returning to practice, I think, this week with a leg issue. So he's been sidelined since the beginning of August. So there are a lot of injuries that you have to pay attention to. Again, AJ Brown and Julio Jones. Julio Jones is on the kind of the backside of his career, so I don't think it affects his draft position too much. But AJ Brown, 2 knee surgeries or both knees being operated on, for a big physical receiver, I could see that being an issue too.
I agree with you. I think Jones is in the decline of his career. I think people are drafting him way too early. I don't see him. I see him barely getting 1,000 yards. And again, if you get 1,000 yards, I said this before, it's like averaging 64 yards a game. It's not that great, Case. So, I mean, Julio Jones, if you get him late, maybe. And AJ Brown, I think he'll be fine. He's younger. He'll be fine. He'll have a good season. He's Tannehill's number 1. When he looks for a receiver, AJ Brown's is always his third down receiver. He always goes to him. So I feel that AJ Brown will be fine, but try to stay away from Jones. Stay away from him. He's not going to have a great season.
Well, we have a question from Dr. Daniel Ratner. Ross, you're very down on Big Ben this year. We all understand why, but which of his big three receivers, there's Claypool, there's Deontay Johnson, and there's Juju Smith-Schuster, which of those big three is going to be his best? Which one's going to perform the best fantasy-wise?
I know Claypool had that huge game that padded his stats.
3 touchdowns,
was it 3 or 4?
It might have been 4. 3 receiving, 1 rushing.
And the funny thing was, I think I said this before, I started him not because I wanted to, just because all my players had a bye that week. So I got to start Claypool and I benefited. Ben Roethlisberger is 39 years old. He can barely move. He came to Tampa in horrible shape, not Tom Brady shape. We're talking about Ross the Ball shape. So that all being said, I just don't feel that Ben is ready to play football at an age of 39 like Tom Brady is, or even like a guy like Matt Ryan, who's older too. I mean,
36.
Yeah, and the Drew Brees, he played last year. You saw age kind of hurt his arm. Ben underthrew the ball a million times last year. He missed receivers. His offensive line last year it was bad. This year it's going to be worse. He lost like 3 offensive linemen to free agency. So the Pittsburgh line, protecting Ben, who's not a running quarterback, guys. He sits in the pocket and waits and throws like this. I mean, he's in for a long season, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that rookie from the high drafted Haskins. He's the backup right now. I think he's starting quarterback by week 4.
So, but to get back to the question, I agree.
Well, I'm down on him because 39.
No, stop. The question wasn't why are you down on him? We all understand. The question was which of those 3 receivers would you trust the most?
Claypool. I like Claypool. Notre Dame kid. Had a great season last year. He's on the up and up. I feel he'll be the most consistent receiver out of all 3 of them.
Okay. See, I would pick Smith-Schuster only for the reason that he's your slot guy, and those aren't the deeper routes. And if we're worried about arm strength and we're worried about pushing it downfield, I'd rather have the guy who's the run after the catch, short yardage, kind of the quick slants or the quick in routes. So, but I don't trust any of them all that much this year. And for that reason, it's interesting. There's a lot of quarterback competitions every year in camp, but for some reason this year seems to be the most interesting because all of the young quarterbacks who are drafted at the top of the draft, with the exception of maybe Zach Wilson, are kind of in competitions. They alluded to it last night between Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew. I don't think there's much of a competition there, but you certainly have the Trey Lawrence, Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Justin Fields, Andy Dalton competitions, as well as the Mac Jones and Cam Newton, Mac and Cam, their own anagram. What are your thoughts on each of those competitive races?
Let's start with Cam Newton. He's out for 5 days. He's COVID, something with COVID. He whatever he did, something stupid. So Matt Jones, the players are starting to say like, wow, this guy can really play. And the Patriots are kind of rallying behind Mac Jones a little bit. They're getting behind the rookie. They're saying, they're comfortable with him if he ever named the starting quarterback. Belichick's not going to name the starting quarterback probably till the Sunday of the game, probably at breakfast. The team breakfast will probably announce it, knowing him. But I feel that Newton's going to be the starter. I feel no doubt that Cam Newton is looking great in preseason. He's unbelievable. Like I said, they're both getting playing time in preseason, and they won last week like 35-0 against the Eagles. Of course, Ross the Boss told you to take the Patriots. That's what I did, and they won. So for that, and then Kasey, tell me the other. Just Justin Fields and Andy Dalton.
Right.
Dalton, in his mind, he thinks it's his job. I mean, he had a press conference last week. He announced that, it's my time to shine. A Zach quote.
That's one of the most ludicrous things I've ever heard after being the starting quarterback in
Dr. Dan
Cincinnati.
Ratner coming on our show and saying it's my time to shine, and we're looking at him like he's crazy.
Is that after he won the hockey league?
After he won the hockey league, exactly. Called luck. And the hockey league's coming back. They just renewed it on Yahoo. But I feel that Justin Fields will be the quarterback by week 4 or 5, maybe even earlier. So if you're drafting, don't draft Andy Dalton, draft Justin Fields and stash him away. Justin Fields is going to have a great rookie year. He's a runner. He's a thrower. He's looking unbelievable in preseason. He's somebody that I like a lot. San Francisco, we got Trey Lance, who looked unbelievable in his last game. I think Ruffalo is going to keep that job until they start losing, and he'll lose it. But Trey Lance,
I'm not sure he's going to lose it. I don't think San Francisco is going to lose much. How do you take him out if they're winning?
Schedule. I just feel Trey Lance to me is just like he's
special. I don't disagree with you. I picked him up as my backup quarterback.
Everybody's saying he hasn't played much football. You know, he didn't start many games in college. He came from a small program. You know, he's not ready. Blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. This kid's showing in preseason and he's ready. He can play.
Well, here's my prediction. I think, and Rich Davis alluded to this last week on the Thursday show, that this is the first 5 games of this season are Jimmy Garoppolo's chance to audition for a trade, and that San Francisco is trying to set him up to prove he's a successful quarterback and trade him. You know, and the Yankees made a big splash at the trade deadline, getting the 2 Italians, Rizzo and Gallo.
10 in a row, Case, the New York Yankees.
And so, you know, I have to plug them every episode. It's just what I
love it. They won 10 in a row. I'm congratulating you.
And so if we're going Italians fit well in New York, I don't trust Daniel Jones. I know you're high on him this year, but I could see a Jimmy G being traded for a 3rd-round pick or something, which the Giants stockpiled a ton of picks by trading back twice this year in the draft. A 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo, so that they save face, the San Francisco 49ers giving Trey Lance the job midseason, even though Garoppolo has been successful. That is my bold prediction for the San Francisco 49ers. I agree with you entirely. I think Trey Lance is the more talented quarterback, but Jimmy G is not bad. And if they're winning, and they can with that defense and that offensive line, they can win right out of the gate. It'll be hard to just bench him.
Let's talk about New Orleans. They played last night. You know, the quarterback from New Orleans looked he was great last night.
Which one, Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill?
Jameis Winston. It's his job to lose. He looked great last night. Marquez Callaway, 2 great catches, 1 for a touchdown, unbelievable catches. Without Michael Thomas there, I think Marquez is going to be his number 1 receiver. We'll talk about that a little later, but I think I think Winston has that job. He's not going to lose it to Hill. They won't announce it probably until the week of the game. But I think Winston, being under Drew Brees for 2 years, I think he probably learned a lot. And I think he's going to have a good season. I don't know if I would start him in a 10-man league or even a 12-man league. But I would probably start him in a bigger league, like a 14 or 16 league. I would start him.
Yeah.
I feel he's going to have a good season. I feel his weapons. He's missing his main weapon, Michael Thomas. But I feel that he'll have a good season. I mean, I don't feel he'll.
Yeah. I see it as Jameis Winston is your lottery ticket because he's the more dynamic player of the two, but he's prone to the turnover. If he learned from Drew Brees and Sean Payton, who's a quarterback guru, we all know that, can put him in good situations where he can avoid the turnovers, he's your better bet. Taysom Hill is obviously in my opinion, more of a game manager. He's the one who won't lose the game for you, but you might not trust him to win the game necessarily.
And they'll be on the field together a lot. I mean, they'll be on the field. Remember, he's a tight end also. Yeah. So he can go out there and catch the ball. They can do some flea flicker stuff. I mean, they can really have fun with that playbook if both of them are in the game at the same time.
So here's an interesting question for you coming from Dr. Ratner. Which depth chart, number 3 running back is going to come into value this season? What 3rd string running back? Can you think of any?
I don't know if he's 3rd string, but I feel Malcolm Brown of the Dolphins is going to be a starting running back for them by mid-season.
You think Myles Gaskin's going to lose the job?
I think Myles Gaskin will lose the job. Malcolm Brown, no one's talking about. He's like drafted in 0% of the leagues. It's unbelievable. No one's taking this guy. He was great for the Rams last year. I don't know why people aren't drafting him. I like Malcolm Brown a lot. We talked about Jamal Williams. I think these guys are all 2nd string guys. I like Eno Benjamin of the Arizona Cardinals. He went to Arizona State. He's tearing it up in preseason. He looks unbelievable. I mean, this guy's catching passes. He's rushing for yards. I know they have Connor. I know they have who's the other running back in Arizona?
Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds, who's never had over 500 yards in a season. Rushing.
I really like him as a sleeper this year, though.
We'll talk about it. I have some issues about him, but we'll talk about it. But I feel Benjamin's going to be good. So there are some sleepers for running backs, and we'll get to that later in the show.
for the sake of Dan, I'm going to name Cleveland's third string running back, because I think if either Chubb or Kareem Hunt get hurt, that you're going to see D'Ernest Johnson earn some valuable playing time. He's been tearing it up in the preseason. All the reports out of camp are that he's doing really well, catching the ball and running the ball. And they have an offense that's designed to use two running backs. So if one of them gets hurt, I think D'Ernest Johnson can get a chance and shine with it. I don't know. Obviously, third strings are the ones you don't draft and then you're just quick to the waiver wire with.
Yep.
I'm not recommending drafting the guy, but I would keep an eye on it if you see Chubb or Hunt get hurt. I read today that they're expecting Carson Wentz to be ready for game 1 of the season, that he's back at practice. I am predicting a bounce back year for him. I think that being reunited with Frank Reich, who was his quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator, the years he was really good in Philadelphia, is going to be good for him. Philadelphia is a tough market to play in. If you start struggling, they can be brutal and relentless, both in the media and in the stadium. He was living in the shadow of the mythical Nick Foles, who made that great comeback for them to win the Super Bowl. So I am predicting him to have a bounce back year. I like some of the receivers there. I like Jonathan Taylor there. I like their offensive line there. I think it's set up for him to be successful. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't draft Wentz. He wouldn't start on my fantasy team unless I'm in like a super flex league. We know what a super flex league is. It's when there's 2 quarterbacks you can start on your team. So if you're for super flex league, yes, I'm drafting Carson Wentz. If I'm not in a super flex league, I'm not drafting Carson Wentz. He was just so hard to watch the past couple of years. But I think you're right. They do have a better offensive line. I love Pittman Jr. I think he'll be good. T.Y. Hilton, I think, is going to have a bounce back year. He looked great the last 4 games last year. Also, I'm not going to draft Wentz unless I'm in a super flex league.
I don't have him as necessarily one of the drafts in a league where you're only rostering 2 quarterbacks, but he would be one of my first pickups, I think, if one of my quarterbacks get hurt. But you're right. He is kind of that mystery player because we haven't seen him healthy in over 2 years. So Dan asks, the Rams are hard to figure out. Other than Matthew Stafford, which offensive player is going to have the best year and be the most draft worthy? Is it Darrell Henderson Jr.? Is it Robert Woods? Is it Cooper Kupp? I like Tyler Higbee. I think he could be the one that you want on that offense, but who would you pick up?
I like Robert Woods. I feel he's the number 1 receiver. Kupp, I feel, had a great relationship with the quarterback who played there last year. Who's the Detroit quarterback?
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff and him were roommates. They were very good friends. I think he does not have that relationship with Stafford. It's going to be a whole different thing. Robert Woods is going to have a good year. He's going to be solid. Henderson's going to be solid. I love Higbee because Everett's gone. There's no controversy at tight end.
Yeah.
He'll have a great year. He'll have a good year at tight end. He'll be a top 10 tight end for sure. But Woods is my number 1 offensive threat on that. I think the Rams, you heard it from me first, Ross the Boss. I think the Rams are going to sign somebody right before the season starts, like a running back that hasn't been in camp.
Todd Gurley.
A
reuniting of the Rams and Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley, he's staying in great shape. He's posting on Instagram. He looks unbelievable. I think the Rams are going to sign a running back probably next week, and I don't know who it's going to be.
I mean, right now, what are they saying? Their backup is
Dr. Dan Ratner. I have no idea.
No. Is it? Oh gosh, Justin Jackson. Is that the Rams? Or is it
Justin
Xavier?
Jackson is the Chargers.
Then it's Xavier Jones is the Rams backup to Darrell Henderson.
Xavier Jones. Yeah.
I get the LA teams confused. I apologize.
I do too. Don't apologize.
My apology to all you LA people out there.
And I get the 2 teams confused all the time. It's very tough to keep it up.
It is. I just hope the ones that I drafted, Darrell Henderson and Austin Eckler, both stay healthy this year and dominate so that I can put the snot bubblers in their place. Dan wants you to admit that you were wrong about Chris Sale. Since this is only a fantasy Q&A, we can talk baseball too.
Football. But
just
to remind the audience, Chris Sale, I said, would not have a win this season. August 15th, he was activated. He got his first win, I think August 16th or 17th. Ross the Boss was wrong. He looks unbelievable. He's pitching great for the Boston Red Sox. They need his help. They're in the playoffs. If the playoffs started today in baseball, Kasey, it'd be Boston and the Red Sox. I mean, the Red Sox and the Yankees in the playoff game in the first round.
In the wild card game. How terrible would that be for a Yankee fan?
Oh,
Chris, you've been a better team for the last 2 months, but you have to face Chris Sale. That would drive me crazy. All right. Dan says that Waller and Kelsey are clearly the top 2 tight ends. Who do you have at number 3?
Well, it's Kittle. I mean,
I think it's pretty easy to Kittle.
George Kittle. But the problem with Kittle is he's been hurt the past 2 years, and he watches the game in luxury boxes with his T-shirt and jeans on. He doesn't come on the field.
I think he has a mullet too. It's really quite fabulous.
I think he does have a mullet. So Kittle, I mean, I like Mark Andrews. This Kyle Pitts is getting a lot of press, but again, rookie tight ends, I'm kind of weird about it. I took a chance in one of our leagues we're in together. I took Pitts.
I think that's a good choice.
I mean, we'll see what happens, but again, there's a whole bunch of tight ends that are just like clumped together. I mean,
the thing about Kyle Pitts is, sure, there hasn't been a rookie tight end to dominate. He certainly has the skill set to, and is it Russell Gage, who's their number 2 wide receiver right now? And I like Russell Gage, but he's not one who's going to be, a ball dom who's going to take many looks away from Kyle Pitts. I think they'll split him out a lot and treat him like a wide receiver. And if that's the case, he can put up some really great numbers.
We'll see what happens. I'm excited for Kyle Pitts. He's a physical freak. I mean, his reach is a tight end's never had the reach he had with arm span.
I like Tyler Higbee, who we just talked about. I'm a big fan of Blake Jarwin, as you know, as long as he doesn't.
Jarwin, we talked about. I love him too.
So, tight end's tough. Kelsey
I like
number 1
Everett up in Seattle. I think Russell Wilson likes throwing the tight ends. I think he's going to be their main target for tight ends. I think he'll have a great year this year. So, I mean, there are some tight ends out there that are really Noah Fant. I like of Denver. I like him a lot. I think he'll have a big year. So there are some tight ends you can get late in the rounds, but if you can't get like the top 5 10 ends that we just mentioned, don't draft till like the second to last pick. Don't waste it.
Before we go any farther, I want to plug MFSN's website is up and running now. It's mfsn.tv. We have our rankings for our top 200 players in fantasy football this year. Plus, we have position rankings, our top 30 to 40 at almost every position, which we're going to update weekly. So feel free to check in. Please check in mfsn.tv as regularly as you can.
www.mfsn.tv. We have blogs. We have videos you can watch, past videos with unbelievable interviews with celebrities and athletes. The website's just blowing up. So if you don't have the website on your book list, on your save list, make sure you save it up.
And we are happy to discuss any of our rankings. If you ever leave us comments, send us an email, whatever you can do, just interact with us, and we'll certainly engage you in the discussion of why we're right, while still being respectful of your feelings. So don't be ashamed of that at all. Sam Darnold struggled in New York. The Jets were abysmal with him. He made more blooper reels than he did highlight reels. He's in Carolina, and all of a sudden people are saying that he has a chance to be successful. What do you think the big difference is? Is it Adam Gase?
I think it's him. I think it's getting out of New York. The pressure playing in New York is so tough for these rookie quarterbacks. I mean, and even regular quarterbacks, doesn't matter if you're a rookie. It's just a tough market to play in. I mean, the press is brutal with you. I mean, you can't hide. I mean, you're answering questions every day. You're on the hot seat every minute in New York City. It's unbelievable. If you're playing in Carolina, they're a small market team. Don't pretend they're like a big market. They're not. He can be himself. He can have fun, and he has some really good talent.
The weapons around him are impressive.
I mean, he has really good receivers. And remember the Jets roster? I mean, I remember last year I told this stat, 68% of their roster last year were free agents the year before. 68%.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
What's that telling you?
Yeah. When you're talking about,
and the defensive starters were like 80% of the defensive starters were free agents last year, the year before.
Yeah. I mean, let's put it this way.
You can't win with free agent guys that were cut off teams. I mean, come on.
His starting running back last year, I think the beginning of the season was Le'Veon Bell when the Jets. Then it went to, I think, LaMichael Perrine or somebody like that.
You're 100% right. Good memory.
Doesn't instill a lot of fear. And now he's got Christian McCaffrey behind him in the backfield, and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson as his wideouts.
Robbie Anderson just signed that 2-year deal for $28 million.
So, I mean, really he certainly is set up in a better position to succeed in that respect.
Yeah. I mean, I Sam Darnold's a quarterback that if I have to start him on 1 or 2 weeks on my fantasy team against a weak opponent, I wouldn't mind doing it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even mind. Like, I could see him stepping into the in Superflex as your number 2 quarterback, because if you think about it, he's got DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson,
and McCaffrey.
Doesn't he have Curtis Samuel as well?
And Curtis Samuel.
But he has a running back who's not only maybe the best running back in football, but he's a running back who loves to catch the ball.
100 receptions a year.
And so if he's going to get 100 passes to Christian McCaffrey plus those wideouts, it is a beautiful situation for him. It's what made Teddy Bridgewater get the contract in Denver. But I mean,
you're 1,000%.
So,
Casey.
All right, let's make some predictions. Dan wants to know, who's your surprise playoff team this year and why?
So my surprise playoff team, let's do AFC first.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns. I feel that they made the playoffs last year. I know, but
they made the AFC Championship last year.
They made the AFC. I think they just got better this year. They improved their defense. They got a couple good offensive linemen. I like Cleveland. If I have to take a real long shot in the AFC, oh God, I don't know who I would take. I would take Miami Dolphins. Let's say them. That's my big long shot.
Yeah,
Miami.
I was looking at Miami as well as my surprise.
I like Miami. They have a really strong defense. Tua, I think, is going to have a bounce back year. He wasn't that good last year. I think he'll have a good year. They got Waddle, the rookie from Alabama. I think he's going to be a gem in there. He's unbelievable. They have good receivers. They have Parker
and Will Fuller. Have Mike Gesicki, the tight end, is a deep threat.
Who I feel is a top 15 tight end. So I feel all this stuff that's going on in Miami. AFC, I like them. In NFC, God, NFC's tough. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Cardinals improved their team tremendously. I think with Murray and Green, they got Green. I think surprising people at camp. He's having a great camp right now. He's the number 2 receiver with Hopkins. I feel that with Connor now in the Cardinals mix, who's 2018, who had a great year a couple years ago before he was hurt, had over 900 yards and 12 touchdowns. I feel the Cardinals for me is going to be my dark horse team in the NFC. So those Miami and the Cardinals.
Okay, I'll go with I was going to say the Dolphins as well, but I'm going to switch it up just because we should have a little bit of disparity between us. I'm going to say the Indianapolis Colts. We talked about Carson Wentz earlier. I believe in their wide receivers. I believe in their running game. They have a great offensive line. For the past 2 years, they've had a top 5 or 6 defense, so they can stop the ball too. They play in the AFC South, I believe, I believe so. Okay. So they're going against the Texans. That's not much of a challenge. So I just think they're going to be one of those teams that comes out of the backfield and makes the playoffs. In the NFC, I'm going to also stay in that Midwest. I'm going to say the Chicago Bears. They aren't, a prolific team of any kind, but they have 2 competent quarterbacks. I think Justin Fields might not be the starter game 1. I think he's the starter by game 3 or 4, and he runs with that. They have Montgomery out of the backfield. They have Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney, who I think is one of the sleepers this year at wide receiver. They have Khalil Mack. They have Khalil Mack,
very underrated. Their defense is
terrorized
very
quarterbacks.
Good,
so I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears as my sleeper out of the NFC. I wanted to say the Giants. God, I wanted to say the Giants. I can't in good conscience because for 2 reasons. A, I don't think it's going to happen. And B, if I did, I would jinx it. And so I'm going to take Dan's approach to picking things. If I want it to happen, I have to pick against it. It's just the way it works. So one of the things we also talked about is MVP candidates, or we haven't talked about, but you and I discussed talking about who are your MVP candidates in the AFC and the NFC. Give me your top 2 choices.
So NFC, I'm going to stay with the Arizona Cardinals. I think Kyle Murray, fantasy-wise, 10 games, over 20 points last year, fantasy-wise, which is really, really good. I feel he's coming into his own. I think they have a great receiving core there with Christian Kirk, Hopkins. They have Hopkins, Green. They have some more. They have Moore, who's really good. They have unbelievable receivers right now. I feel he's going to have a great year. I like Murray as the MVP. I won't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers wins it again. I mean, I won't be shocked. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play like last year. Remember how angry he was when he was playing and he just wanted to run the score up because he was so mad. I think the same thing's going to happen this year. I think he's very, very angry now. He wants to show you know what he wants to do? He wants to win the Super Bowl in Green Bay and then tell Green Bay, go F yourself. I'm leaving. I'm going to join a different team because I hate your organization so much, but I gave you a Super Bowl and hope you're happy. The next season, he hopes they lose every game. That's what I think he wants to do. And I would never bet against Aaron Rodgers, but I feel Murray in the AFC, that AFC is a tough one. I'll go with Derrick Henry again. I mean, the guy doesn't get hurt. He rushed for 2,000 yards last year. He's going to have with 17 games this year. And with the weapon of Jones coming to Tennessee, and they can't play 7 in the box, I think Henry's going to have like 2,500 yards this year. I think he's going to have a huge year. He's going to lead the AFC in touchdowns. I'm taking Derrick Henry as my MVP in the AFC.
I think going back to Aaron Rodgers, he's going to do what Brett Favre did. He's going to leave them and go to Minnesota and then beat them with Minnesota because they're kind of like the rival. Isn't that what Favre did? He went to the Jets.
I remember watching that playoff game. It was great. And
yeah,
I think Aaron, my prediction, and Dr. Dan, I want to hear what he has to say. Well, here, find out Thursday. I feel he'll go to Las Vegas. I think Aaron Rodgers will go to Vegas, because of the tax breaks and everything else, and just because of the new stadium. And I think he wants the challenge of taking a bad team, making it a great team. I could be wrong, but I think he'll be a Las Vegas Raider next year.
Oh, interesting. So my NFC, I'm going to take two choices, one a quarterback and one a non-quarterback. My quarterback is Dak Prescott. I think if they make it far this year in the playoffs and maybe to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, given how they were playing before he got hurt and how they played after he got hurt last year, just proves how valuable he is to that franchise. I think if they have a good year and he stays healthy, I think hands down, he becomes a pick. And I'm going to go with somebody really like.
Let me just mention Dak Prescott real quick before you mention your next one. I think if Dak Prescott plays all 17 games, you heard it from me first, Ross the Boss, 6,000 yards passing.
Wow. So I think that's one. And I'm going to go with somebody who you're really high on as my second pick. And it's going to surprise a lot of people because he's a big name in fantasy circles, but he's not a big name outside of them. And that's Antonio Gibson. I think the Washington football team with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback is a much better team this year. And that's going to open up gaps for Antonio Gibson to run wild and catch passes out of the backfield. Their defense is awesome. I think they could be the surprise team in the NFC East if things break their way. And so if Dak doesn't have that year where he takes Dallas far, I think Antonio Gibson gets some love because the Washington football team would be the team to step into Dallas's place. So that's in the NFC. In the AFC, obviously Patrick Mahomes, to me, has to be your quarterback choice. I just think he is that good. He separates himself that much. And so it's hard to pick another quarterback as much as I love Lamar Jackson. Maybe if Lamar Jackson gets home field advantage for the Ravens and runs for like 700 yards in addition to passing, or runs for 1,000 yards in addition to passing for 3,000 or 4,000 yards and leads Baltimore to the promised land, he could be the competition. But I actually like J.K. Dobbins a lot in Baltimore. And I think if things go the way John Harbaugh, wants them to, J.K. Dobbins could be a 1,500-yard back because he just loves to pound the rock and control the ball, and he could carry them pretty far too. So those are my two predictions there. We have a question on the chat. What fantasy rookies do you believe have the biggest fantasy upside? We're going to take two questions and then we got to end the show. So who are give me two fantasy rookies you want everybody to pay attention to?
We talked about a case and you just picked him up in our league. I think Trey Lance, just what he showed me during preseason this guy's the real deal. I mean, this guy reminds me of I want to say a young Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is already young. So I'm not making sense.
Rookie Patrick Mahomes.
Trey Lance, I also love Trevor Lawrence. I know he's the number one pick, but I feel he's going to have a big year in Jacksonville. The guy's a winner wherever he goes. I also love Chase for the Bengals. I'll mention his name too.
Dropping the ball a lot in camp. That's what they're saying.
Just get all the drops done now. Get all the drops done in camp and preseason, because when the season starts, there'll be money. There'll be money, and you'll see him have a great season. So, but Trey Lance, to me, just what I saw him play with the Niners, unbelievable.
Okay. And one other. So you said Trey Lance and you said Jamar Chase. I'm going to go with, I think it's a softball, Najee Harris in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Pittsburgh's a run first offense. This is a stud running back who doesn't have competition. Maybe Anthony McFarland can steal some carries for him in Pittsburgh or can step up if he gets hurt. But if he doesn't get hurt, they're going to protect Big Ben as much as they can. So they're going to give Najee Harris the ball a lot. The other one, I'm gonna go a little bit out on a limb and say Elijah Moore. Is it Elijah Moore? I think
Elijah Moore. With
the Jets. Okay, I just think Zach Wilson is looking good. This is a guy who had like over 225 yards and 3 touchdowns in multiple games last season as a college player. He's a stud. He's been hurt, so people haven't seen him, but I think that's somebody who could surprise. He might not be the biggest, but I think the biggest winner in the fantasy rookie race, but he's going to get you the best value because you can probably get him off the waiver wire or in the late rounds. All right, one last question, then we got to go. MB, thank you for the question. CEH, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire or for Keenan Allen, would you make that trade depending on which side you're on?
It just depends if you're heavy on running backs, if you're heavy on wide receivers. Let's say you have equal par in each. I like Keenan Allen. I don't feel Kansas City looks for the run that much when they're at the goal line. They like throwing the pass the hill. Even Hardman,
Kelsey,
even Pringle and Kelsey. I mean, they like sharing the ball at the goal line. They don't really run the ball in. If it is, it's Mahomes that runs it in. So that all being said, I like Keenan Allen. I think he's a guy that's going to have 100 yards a game and probably a touchdown. And I think the Chargers are going to have a great season this year. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I agree with you. I would rather have Keenan Allen of those two. I think they might be of similar value, but Keenan Allen is the more known commodity. The only CEH struggled most of last year. It's why they brought in Le'Veon Bell and gave him some carries there at the end of the season to take some of the love away from CEH. Keenan Allen, my only issue with him is the history of back injuries and whether he's going to be durable for an entire season. I don't know. But guys, thank you so much for the questions. This was a lot of fun. Ross, again, thank you for the insight and the knowledge. It's always good to talk to you. Everybody watching, please subscribe to our channel, ring the bell for notifications, like the video if you like what you're watching, and leave comments always. We love interacting with you. I hope if you've drafted that all your players stay healthy. I hope if your draft is upcoming, I hope all the players fall to you that you want. We will talk to you again next week. Take care. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. From Kill Cliff, the #1 clean energy drink in the mind of Joe Rogan, comes the Flamin' Joe. Sugar-free, B vitamins, electrolytes, all them good drink things. An epic spicy pineapple fusion from out of this world, straight into your drink hole. Own it. Kill Cliff.